Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, over a dozen schools in the South African province of Limpopo are set on fire amidst unrest sparked by changes to municipal boundaries. Demonstrators say the move, which comes ahead of August local elections, leaves them worse off. Also, Congolese millionaire Moise Katumbi accuses the government of Joseph Kabila of being out to get him. Just hours before announcing his candidacy for the top job, the Justice Ministry says that he's being investigated for allegedly using foreign mercenaries. And Burundian police say that more than 450 people have been killed in a year of unrest. Some of the 100,000 refugees who fled to Tanzania say that they're still at risk of violence and persecution there. Well, we turn first to South Africa, where 17 schools have been set alight during days of protests in the northern province of Limpopo. The demonstrations against the redrawing of municipal boundaries began on Monday night, and other public buildings were reportedly also targeted. The boundary reforms come ahead of local elections in August, and villagers say that the move will hit the quality of their public services. Relative calm returned to the area on Thursday, but tensions do remain high. Jane Flanagan tells us more about why schools bore the brunt of the violence.
Well, I think protesters have gone for the most high-profile targets they can, and what devastating effect they've had. There's 100,000 pupils who are now affected, who haven't got schools to attend to, and the local authorities are going to have to make a plan with mobile classrooms and so on. But the fact that schools were targeted has triggered an outrage across South Africa, from the government, from the president himself, down to local radio shows who are being inundated with phone calls from people expressing absolute horror and outrage that schools have been targeted.
So protesters are saying that the change in municipal boundaries is going to leave them worse off. Why do they think that?
Well, I think there's a lot of speculation now that that isn't the motive behind the attacks on schools and the general disruption in the area, because there's no evidence to suggest that the new municipality that's been created reduced funding compared to the municipality that the villagers are already in. There's accusations now that actually the motivation for the protests is tribal, because people are going to now have to report to a municipality where their language is not the dominant language spoken. But that hasn't been confirmed. It's merely being speculated.
Jane Flanagan there for us in Cape Town. Well, in DR Congo, multi-millionaire businessman Moise Katumbi will be running in this year's presidential election. He's accusing the government of harassment over his political ambitions, as just hours before he announced his candidacy, the Congolese justice minister said that he'd be the subject of an investigation. Katumbi's declaration is likely to heighten tensions ahead of the November vote.
Splashed across the front pages, Moise Katumbi dominates Congolese press on Thursday. The former governor of Katanga announced last night he'll be running for president in November, an announcement that's already dividing opinion.
If he says he's running for president, well, I think that time is up for Katumbi.
We're still waiting for there to be a clear path to free, democratic and transparent elections. So why is he announcing his candidacy now? I don't know. Personally, I think it's too early.
Opposition leaders are not entirely ready to support Katumbi blindly. Some say that 6 months before the election, the list of candidates is not yet a priority.
Our determination is focused on the certainty that the presidential elections will be held within the constitutional timeframe. That's the first fight. Once this is achieved, the rest is a matter of managing ambitions.
The government would rather focus on the ongoing investigation into accusations that Katumbi recruited foreign mercenaries who were not in possession of valid visas.
He decided to turn this affair into a political one, when it is first and foremost a security issue. We would have liked to hear Mr. Katumbi respond to these serious accusations of using mercenaries. Instead of that, he chose to throw himself into the election campaign.
It is still impossible to know if the presidential election will be held in November this year, but Moise Katumbi seems to be the opposition's main candidate. He is at the center of attention here, and one thing is for certain now, the presidential race has started in DR Congo.
Thomas Nicolin there for us in Kinshasa. Now, 6 days after a multi-storey building housing dozens of families collapsed in Nairobi, and there's still a glimmer of hope for those still waiting for news of loved ones. On Thursday, rescue workers freed 4 more people who'd managed to survive under the rubble for almost a week. 3 women and a man were pulled from the wreckage, which has claimed the lives of at least 36. Dozens of people are still missing, but it's not clear whether those listed were caught in the collapse or have not yet been traced after managing to escape. Mozambique has seen foreign donors back away en masse after it admitted to hiding up to $1.4 billion of debt. The breach of trust means any future international aid will likely come with some serious strings attached.
Rusting away by the pier. Boats meant for a state-of-the-art tuna fleet to reinvigorate Mozambique's fishing industry and earn the country millions of dollars. Instead, they float idly, tangled up in allegations of government mismanagement. The $850 million foreign loan secured for the state fishing company in 2013 to fund projects like these is now unlikely to be paid off. Hit hard by falling commodity prices, Mozambique's fortunes have changed, and the government now faces debt equal to at least 80% of GDP. It's accused of hiding another $1.4 billion worth of liability from donors and its own people. The IMF and other international contributors have suspended their support. Bankruptcy is a very real risk.
The debt that was declared recently is a huge burden on the economy. With the production capabilities that we now have, like exporting coal and natural gas, the debt is unsustainable.
The debt crisis has sent the currency, the metical, reeling. Inflation's up, as are the prices of staples like bread and fuel. Mozambicans are feeling the pinch.
They have to sort it out, to do everything possible for our currency to go back to what it was.
About this new debt, the people who took out the loans are the same people that make the laws. So they should take the responsibility.
Credit rating agency Fitch has downgraded Mozambique, making the country a riskier borrower than previously thought.
Police in Burundi say that more than 450 people have been killed in a year of unrest. Clashes sparked by President Pierre Nkurunziza's bid for a third term have also forced out hundreds of thousands of people. Many have headed to Tanzania. Some who now call a camp their home say that they're still not safe from intimidation.
It's been a year since Burundians began arriving here, but some refugees who have been attacked inside the camp and moved to protection areas say they are still not safe. This woman's family fled Burundi when government supporters threatened to kill her husband for refusing to join the ruling party. Months later, he was allegedly attacked inside the camp by the same men.
My husband was stabbed and went to the hospital in Zone 11, so we went to see him at the hospital. The police investigated, they questioned the neighbors, and the International Rescue Committee came, and it is them who moved us.
They were moved to a temporary shelter called the Departure Center for people at risk. Another woman who fled government supporters in Burundi says it was other refugees who attacked her and her son on separate occasions. They were also moved to the Departure Center.
When I was brought here to the Gender-Based Violence Center, it was because that man had come drunk. He took a machete to kill me. The neighbors disarmed him, and so I came here.
But it hasn't given her family the protection it needs. She says an assault on her daughter happened after they had been moved.
Me, I have not suffered so much, but it is my daughter who's been raped. When I washed my child, you see that when washing a child, it's the whole body. So at bath time, every time I touched her genitals, the child was screaming and crying. When I looked, I noticed that my child was damaged, and I brought her to the hospital.
The UNHCR said the Tanzanian government is closely monitoring security in the camps and at border entry points, and that funding is required to support the establishment of additional safe shelters and emergency accommodation for families affected by violence.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, and please do so again. Take care.